Season 2 of the Hiring Librarians podcast. We talk about hiring, getting hired, and broader career issues for librarians, archivists, and other folks in information service professions. I'm your host, Emily Week. This podcast is part of my work on the site hiringlibrarians.com, where I've spent more than a decade asking questions, complex, stupid, and everywhere in between, to LIS workers on both sides of the hiring table. This episode was recorded on August 6, 2025. My guest is Angela Pashia. Hey, hello, podcast listeners. I am here today with Angela Pashia. Angela was a librarian for 12 years, but is now a leadership development coach who helps library leaders confidently manage change and conflict in their organizations so that they can feel better about going to work. We're here today. We're going to talk mostly about supporting new hires in leadership roles. A few episodes ago, I talked to Kelly Forkenbrock about onboarding in general, and we talked more about onboarding frontline staff, so onboarding clerks, pages, library assistants. And so now we'll talk more the other end of the scale. Is it a scale? The other of the responsibility chart.
That works.
Yeah. But can we get started, Angela, by talking a little bit more about you? Will you tell us a little bit about your career path? We talked about you working in libraries and now being a coach. So maybe will you tell us the whole did you want to be a librarian when you were a kid?
So I was not a library kid. I grew up pretty poor, and my dad he was a single dad. And we would end up with the library fines and then not be able to borrow anything. So he didn't have the time and energy to take us regularly. And we couldn't borrow after we racked up fines because his job got in the way of us getting stuff returned on time. Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad to see more libraries going fine free because of that.
Yeah.
I had a long and twisty road. Mm-hmm. I took some time off after high school, worked, waitressing jobs that exhausted me, and got the motivation to actually figure out what I wanted to do. I was scheduled 40 hours a week at a Fly-in J. Waiting tables. And if you're waiting tables, 40 hours is an extra hour and a half every day on your shift to finish out the tables. It was exhausting. And that was my goal. My dad told me, go hide out in academia for a while you figure it out. And he jokes that I took that way too seriously because I wound up deciding to become an anthropologist. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with cultural anthropology, got my bachelor's, got a master's, and then spent some time in a PhD program. Racked up so much student debt that I couldn't really wrap my head around that amount. And I still had several years ahead of me before I would graduate into a job market that makes the library job market look amazing. And, friends were starting to graduate and get stuck on the adjunct treadmill despite doing amazing work. And when I decided this is probably not the best path after all, I thought back to my orientation to my first graduate program, which included a library instruction session with the anthropology liaison. And I was like, that would actually be pretty cool to stay connected to the research that I love. And so I wound up switching over to a library science program, and I was one of those lucky people that wound up with a job offer for a tenure track librarian position before I even graduated, and spent 12 years teaching college students about information literacy and research skills. I landed in a library that even had a credit-bearing information literacy course. So it was really that teaching students, being involved in research, that was what drew me into libraries. And that's what I wound up getting to do for 12 years. But like way too many people, I went through several experiences with toxic leaders. And the last one, first it was a department head, then it was a dean. And we actually wound up getting those resolved. The last one started right around the time that the pandemic did. Like literally the new university president was supposed to start on April Fool's Day that year,
Oh, wow.
which would have been incredibly appropriate for this guy. But they asked him to start a couple of weeks early because everything was getting shut down. And he came in like a wrecking ball. Faculty tried to fight back, and Faculty Senate held an official like vote of no confidence of, all of the faculty voted no confidence about 6 months after this guy was in place.
Wow.
And that, it didn't help anything. In fact, it kind of put him on the warpath against faculty. He went so far as to tell the staff council when they were complaining about being overworked because positions weren't being filled. Well, if you had 5 people and you're down to 3 and the work's still getting done, then you never really needed the 5 people.
Right. Yeah.
Which, that's horrible. This was a place where for most of the time I was there, everybody cared so much about the students that when you lose somebody, you make sure that the students aren't affected while you look for somebody to replace that person. But that doesn't mean it's a sustainable workload. It means you're going above and beyond what is healthy to make sure the students aren't hurt. And this guy weaponized that. And I know it happens all over the place. But
that's really unfortunate thinking. It's a little bit like bottom line thinking or like running a college like a business. I think there's a little bit of that. Oh, well, we've got to be super efficient with staff. And it comes at the expense of the quality of life and the quality of work and the sustainability for the staff.
And it's also super outdated.
Yes.
Like businesses don't run businesses like that anymore. They learned that it's more effective to replace somebody than to retain somebody. And a lot of businesses are providing more incentives to stay, more support, and not playing those games. But culturally, we have it in our mind that that's how you run a business.
I'll just say, I think you said it backwards because you said it's more efficient to replace somebody than retain somebody. And you said the vice versa.
Thank you. I did not even catch myself doing that. Sometimes the words just come out faster than my brain.
That's an exciting podcast. Makes for an exciting podcast.
Obviously, I have big feelings about this. So I know there's different takes on quiet quitting. I did like the quiet quitting that is what the higher ups are frustrated about. I did not meet job expectations. I did just the minimum while I was figuring out what to do next. And having tenure afforded me that because like it would take a couple of years to get rid of me. So I really can just do what I need to do for myself and I'll be gone before they can fire me. So I took that time and figured it out. And when I learned about coaching, that just felt amazing. It's a way to support people that's in line with the approach that I had been really focusing on. So I was an instruction librarian and leaned really heavily into critical pedagogy, which is treating students as whole people with lived experiences that they bring in. It's not just me pouring my knowledge into empty vessels. It's me talking with them about the ways that their experiences, their prior knowledge connects with these new ideas. Obviously, as the teacher, you're responsible for a lot of things, but where can I give them some autonomy in how we handle certain things? I even did the syllabus day activity of how am I going to grade your class participation and let them decide these things. And when I first heard about coaching, I thought it was basically like mentoring, teach somebody how to do these things. And then I got into my training program and found out that no, it's actually partnering with someone to honor their knowledge and their experience and help them work through what path is going to be most effective for them to get to their goals. It's not me saying, you need to do this, this, and this. It's me saying, okay, well, this is important to you. What options do you see? What other perspectives are there that you hadn't thought of yet? And what assumptions are you making? And it all depends on the topic, how exactly that goes.
Can I ask a question about coaching? It's in my head right now. What do you consider the difference to be between therapy and coaching?
So therapy is dealing with your past harms and healing that part of yourself. Coaching is helping you get clear on how you want to move forward that's in line with your values and your goals. And a lot of people that have the resources to do so actually do both in conjunction. One of my first clients was somebody who their therapist actually encouraged them to also work with a coach because the therapist is helping you heal this past, and there's certain things that a therapist can help with in that way. But then how do you take that healing and that learning and put it into how you move forward in your real life? And I just said real life as if there's a separation.
As opposed to your imaginary emotional life.
Yeah, like the space where you're carved out and you're just healing is great and it's real and it's important. But how do you then put that into your day-to-day is what I meant to say. And that's where coaching can come in. And there's all sorts of coaching. I focus on leadership development because after 12 years in libraries, I didn't feel like I could just walk all the way away. There's so much toxicity in libraries that support to help leaders create healthier teams, healthier interactions with their teams is a way that I can help to make the world a better place. But there's also, ADHD coaches that help you develop skills around managing that, relationship coaches, fitness coaches, of course, just pretty much anything you can think of. There's probably somebody coaching.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit like it's a sphere of knowledge difference too. Like your understanding is in libraries and the ways that libraries can operate. Whereas a therapist might not have that. A therapist who used to be a librarian might have that, or I don't know, thinking about second careers or first careers. But you have that specific industry knowledge about how libraries work.
For the leadership development focus, I would encourage somebody to look for a coach who has experience in libraries. But so I'm a member and certified by the International Coaching Federation. And part of that, the ethical code of ethics that I follow is being very clear that I am not a therapist and when to refer someone to a therapist. They're definitely very separate. You might find somebody that's both a coach and a therapist, but not all coaches are also therapists.
That makes sense. Maybe it's a good time to transition to talking specifically about support for new hires in leadership positions. Just a definitional thing. So what to you is the difference between leadership or management or administrative positions? What specifically does leadership mean?
So there are a couple of different levels here. The simple answer is that leadership is kind of an umbrella term that includes managers and administrators, as well as people in less formal leadership roles. So like if you're in an elected position in your union, or if you're chairing a shared governance committee in your library, then those I would consider leadership positions, even though that doesn't come with any formal direct reports. So you're not a manager, but you are still in a leadership position. On sort of the deeper level, those labels carry different connotations. So when you get into leadership development discussions in sources like, Harvard Business Review, there's this big distinction between being a manager and being a leader. Somehow administrators got to be left out of those conversations. So For managers in this dichotomy, the focus tends to be on like processes and products, whereas leaders are focused on the people side of things. Like the idea that developing their team is going to improve the outcomes that are measured by the products. So you get a lot of like contrasts here. The leader coaches their team while a manager gives instructions.
Yeah.
A leader focuses on team dynamics while a manager focuses on the task list. A leader encourages shared governance while a manager tries to get buy-in for their own ideas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In another episode, I talked to someone about unions, and Jamie manages people in like 3 separate unions, but is not a manager as defined by the union. So I was thinking about that distinction of like, what is a manager for a union versus like doing supervisory tasks or like managing. There's interesting use of words, I think, around management and around administration and around leadership. And I'm glad that it has something specific in your head is very clear.
My perception is that there's sort of a difference between public and academic library spheres. So public libraries, it's pretty common to have manager labels. So you've got the branch manager, and that's the title.
Yeah.
In academic spaces, there are a lot of people who are department heads that do not want to be called a manager. I think that goes back to these distinctions that just because you have the label manager doesn't mean you're using this manager approach within this dichotomy. You could be a leader instead of a manager within this dichotomy, even with that label. But especially the more faculty-minded academic librarians, my experience has been a very, no, I'm not going to be a manager kind of approach. But there's also, I built my leadership skills by chairing a faculty senate committee where you don't have the disciplinary responsibilities, you don't have the annual evaluations that you do as a supervisor, but you do have that role of leading this committee and herding cats into getting anything done together.
This is a very broad question then. So what do organizations need to do to set up new leadership hires for success?
I come from that like academic background, so I make everything complicated. So we can look at sort of like the specific things that they need to provide and then the types of support that are going to help you provide them.
Yeah.
So some of the really important specific things include clear expectations. And everybody needs that, not just leaders. But one of the areas that I see people struggle with is coming in and feeling like, especially coming in and knowing that the leaders above them expect them to manage some challenges within their unit. They feel like, oh, I need to show some results. And even if their direct supervisor is saying, oh, this is such a tangled mess that you're probably going to need 5 years to get it all sorted out.
Yeah.
They still feel this pressure to start showing results.
Right. Yeah.
And jumping in to make changes before you get to know your team and why they do the things that they do can set you up for a lot of resistance. So like a clear set of expectations of like, no, we don't expect you to make any changes within the first 6 months or whatever. And that kind of implies mapping in time for them to get to know their team and get to know the history of your organization. And then they also need ongoing leadership development. This is absolutely crucial when someone is stepping into their first formal leadership role, but leaders at all levels can benefit from this. So back in July, I taught a class on coaching as a leadership skill at Library Juice Academy. And there was a group of about 10 people, all from the same organization enrolled. One of them was the division leader who has been working in this organization for almost 50 years, which blows my mind.
Yeah. Wow.
And like coming in to a leadership skills development course while talking about your plans for retirement. How many people are doing that? But this person was still actively engaged. And at the end said they felt like they learned valuable skills that are going to help them in other areas of their life, even after they retire. So it's never too late to keep learning.
It just strikes me too, like that's part of that, like something in your story and that I see so frequently in libraries is burnout or just getting tired, and I think keeping learning, like keep valuing learning and keeping to have those juicy learning experiences might be a way to keep your battery charged.
Keeping yourself in that sort of learning mindset and approaching things with curiosity is important, but also carving out time for your team members to continue learning means that you are prioritizing the space that they need to develop instead of just like pouring more and more and more onto their plate. And that's the biggest challenge I hear is time.
Yes. Yeah. It makes me think about when you're talking about relationship building as being important for a new manager, that takes time too. We were talking a little bit about managers manage products, or we talked earlier about bottom line thinking too. And maybe that's another distinction between leaders and managers is you do need to take that time to build relationships, and it takes time, and there isn't necessarily a visible product that you can show by creating relationships, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable work.
Absolutely. There's also kind of a cliche in leadership that the skills that got you here are not the skills that you need to be successful here. So, you may be an amazing liaison or cataloger, but that's no longer your full-time job. And now you need those people skills to effectively lead a team. I don't have the numbers right at the, on the top of my head, but the number of people promoted into leadership positions, but not given training in how to be a good leader are just abysmal. So providing that sort of support is incredibly important to having a healthy team. And then the last clear thing that goes into supporting a new leader is communicated support. So it's easy to just feel like, well, we hired you. Of course we support you. But that comes through in things like communicating clear expectations that give you time to create those relationships. It includes stuff like how you introduce this new leader to all of the relevant stakeholders and how you make sure they have their network of support. And I told you I was going to make things complicated.
Oh, is this the complicating part is coming?
So those are like the things that the organizations need to provide. And then there's a kind of a matrix of here are the ways that you actually provide those things. So training is onboarding usually involves some sort of training on your organization's specific policies and procedures and all of that. You get the HR trainings, the compliance trainings, and so on. And then how do you shift into providing explicit leadership development training? So this is where people get to learn the new knowledge and skills, that ongoing leadership development training. And then you have sponsorship, which is, how you talk about them when they're not in the room, as well as how you handle those introductions and set them up for other people to see them as caring, kind leaders. Another important component is mentoring. Here I'm talking about the relationships with more experienced leaders as an essential part of a new leader's support network. So this is another place where they might learn new approaches, new skills from hearing what the mentor, how they handled things in the past, what worked for them, what not to do sometimes, as well as getting emotional support to manage the more challenging aspects of leading a team. No matter how great the team is, there's a reason they say it can be lonely at the top. When you're in middle management, you're in the middle between two sides that, even if they both have the best intentions, they sometimes have competing interests. And that's hard sometimes to manage. And then as you move up, you have fewer and fewer peers who really understand the competing pressures that you're navigating.
Mm-hmm.
So that support is absolutely essential. And then coaching is another form of important support that is focused on partnering with this new leader to help them sort through all of this new information and find the path that's most aligned with their values.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the lines are kind of fuzzy. There are some mentors that use more of a coaching approach, but the way the International Coaching Federation distinguishes between mentoring and coaching is that a mentor is a more experienced person sharing their greater wisdom with a less experienced mentee. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a hierarchical exchange.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's blurry, and mentors also learn from mentees. But for the sake of contrast, while a coach is partnering on a more equal level with a fully competent client in a thought-provoking conversation to support the client in reaching their goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes includes figuring out what goals they really want to work toward.
Yeah.
So as a coach, I don't tell anyone what I think they should do.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I help them see a wider range of perspectives and possibilities and help them make the decision that feels right for them. So I ask questions that challenge their assumptions, and I share knowledge and my own experiences when it feels useful, but never as a, hey, you should do this, always as just one data point to consider.
Right. Yeah.
So, if they like the idea, yay, what would you need to adapt to make that fit your situation? And if they don't, then I ask, what other ideas did that spark that would work better for you? So I'm not attached to them doing that. So I hope you didn't just hear that. My dog decided to come right in front of me and shake.
And it's okay. It's okay if your dog wants to be on the podcast. It's a dog-friendly podcast. It's an animal-friendly podcast. Oh, hey, this interruption is to let you know that if you're someone who hires, someone who wants to learn how to hire, or if you're in charge of professional development for your library, I've put together an online, self-paced training on hiring basics, which you can purchase through Navarre Library Services. You can learn more by going to hiringlibrarians.com/classes. I think it's really interesting. There's a concept on hiring committees called search advocates. Search advocates are people that are trained in hiring that aren't part of the department, and you sit on the hiring committee and you provide this outsider voice. So you can point out things like, hey, this seems like a barrier. Here's where you're using lingo you don't need to be using. And it seems a little bit like a coach might perform that same function of, you're not somebody who works for the organization. You're not somebody who has those particular stakes. You're somebody who can be a neutral voice.
Yeah. And that one of the characteristics that one of my past clients said was the reason she hired me instead of seeking out just a mentor through other networks is the fact that part of that code of ethics is that our conversations are not legally privileged, but within the bounds that is possible, I maintain full confidentiality. So, don't tell your coach about any crimes that they might get subpoenaed to discuss. Right. But outside of that, you can trust that a coach is going to keep everything confidential, which makes it a lot easier when you don't have to dance around avoiding naming names as you talk through these challenges.
all of the things that you were discussing, both the components of support and then the how you make those components happen, it made me think of, I hear from a lot of people on different surveys about not wanting to go into management roles or not wanting to manage people. So people who want a promotion are looking for more pay or more responsibility, but definitely do not want to manage people. And I wonder how much of that would change if you went into managing people and you had this broad suite of support for what you were doing.
I think it's a yes and. So having that support, but also shifting that perspective on what it even means to take on that position. I identify with that because for many years I had no interest in moving up into a management position because I was thinking of it within that like sort of manager leader dichotomy. And when I shifted into, this isn't about me telling people what to do, it's about me helping people achieve their goals and providing the support that they need to be great at what they do. That feels good. That's what I want to do, one way or another. That's why I loved teaching. That's why I leaned into the critical pedagogy approach. And so kind of shifting that view of what it even means to be in those roles was a big part of it for me, at least.
And even that distinction, I think, could be improved by all of the things that you just listed, by getting training, by having peer mentors, by having coaches, by having clear expectations from your own leadership and support.
And examples.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier, I talked to Kelly Forkenbrock in an earlier podcast this season, and we talked about onboarding, and she was talking specifically about clerk or assistant level. Do you have thoughts about how support for new hires differs for leadership versus frontline staff?
It sort of goes back to that, like the skills that got you to this position are not what you need to succeed in this leadership position. So when you are moving into sort of a clerk role, I looked, but I didn't find that episode. So
because it's releasing tomorrow.
Okay, good. So
Sorry.
So I'm imagining that a lot of this is training and, probably some clear expectations, but also training on the processes and procedures, how to do the job well.
Yeah.
And especially for like front desk staff, that might include a little bit of basic reference training, even if they're not librarian. They can help in some ways if that works for them.
We talked a lot about customer service. So she's a public librarian, so specifically about that aspect of the job. Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into that, and that's incredibly important. And most people get promoted into management because they did great in that. So the onboarding for a new leader needs to be very clear in like, yes, that's all important. That's all what got you here.
Yeah.
But here's this whole other set of skill set that you need. Yeah. And that's where new sorts of training comes in, and then mentoring around not how do you be great at customer service, but how do you then lead this team and provide the support that they need, and coaching around, how do you want to move forward in putting this new training and all of this new advice into practice.
I feel like we don't think about that, the fact that the leadership part is the new part, like when I've been promoted or when I've seen other people be promoted, we think about them as being sometimes decision makers around processes. And that kind of is the easy part if you're getting promoted in from somebody who was doing the processes, because you know where the hard parts are. But the brand new skill is the new skill of leadership in that sense.
And that even when you come in as the leader who knows the process super well, and you can identify what stands out to you, taking that time to talk to your team and get their perspectives, maybe you're making some assumptions that are based on what you knew in the past, that, this process makes no sense because based on my past library that did it this way, we would never do it this way. But then you talk to people and find out that, oh, there actually is a reason they do it this way.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a workaround for this other thing that's imposed from administrative above library. And taking the time to learn those specific things is important. And then also, the higher up you move in leadership roles, the less you're going to know about the details of every single position. So my academic background coming through again, like you have catalogers in technical services that are amazing catalogers, but have never taught a class. You have instruction librarians who would not know the first thing about how to create a MARC record or negotiate a database contract or any of that. And so no matter where in the library you're coming from, when you move up into, dean or director, you have to have the skills to ask the right questions and actively listen to the people that know the specifics about those processes. And that listening and asking good questions is a really important leadership skill.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about what organizations can do to help new leadership, but do you have thoughts about what the new hire can do to help themselves? Like if they come into a situation that doesn't have good support and they're asked to be a leader, or even if they do, what are the parts that they can sort of take on?
So curiosity is huge. Start with questions. Take time to listen and learn what matters to your team members before you even start thinking about what you'd like to change. Ask why things are done the way they're done. And if the response is just that that's how it's always been done, ask how that's working for them.
Yeah.
Ask what they wish they could change and what they hope never changes in their work. And I know libraries are all over the place in terms of salaries, but if you have the resources, hire your own coach. I provide training for leaders in developing coaching skills. So in an ideal world, you could get some level of coaching from your supervisor who has learned managerial coaching skills, and that's awesome. But they have a certain set of interests. Some organizations will provide coaches for you, like on-staff coaching available to any leaders in the organization. And I don't know how that works out because there is that kind of competing interests.
Yes, yeah.
They're working for the organization. When you are able to hire an outside coach, that outside coach is working for you and supporting you and is focused on helping you reach your goals. Now, if you are in the, as you go into the negotiation process, sometimes like you can't get a higher salary because that's a recurring expense, but you can get a one-time allotment for some additional professional development or something. I do have a coaching client that their organization paid for their coaching package. So in that case, it was explicitly, yes, you're using organizational funding, but you hired me. So I am only connected to you. I'm not beholden to your organization in any way. Other people move into a higher position that comes with a significant raise and put some of that toward hiring a coach to help them navigate this new level. And of course, you can always seek out mentors. Professional organizations are a great place for that.
Something I'm hearing in all of the things that you're saying is just the value of support and external support that's external to your organization.
Ideally, you would have both.
Yes.
But that additional perspective taking is incredibly valuable. Because when you're in an organization for long enough, it's easy to see the things being done there as just normal. And if you're coming in and working for somebody that's been there for 12 years, then some of the dysfunction might feel normal to them. But you come in and you're like, oh my God, is it me that's having a hard time adjusting here? Or is it really that the place is weird?
Mm-hmm.
Having that outside perspective is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the idea of your perspective is limited. So the more that you can broaden your perspective, the more better you'll be.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you if you have any general advice for people who hire, just because people who hire are listening to the show, any general advice for people who are looking for work, and then give you a chance to wrap up anything that you didn't get a chance to say or anything that you want to plug that you're doing right now.
For people doing hiring, think about how you're going to make sure this new hire is going to be set up to succeed. For people that are looking for jobs, remember that you can start with negotiating the salary, of course, but that's a recurring expense. Once you have that set, negotiate for one-time expenses, for leadership training, for coaching to help you through your first 6 months or even full year. I offer a leadership training program on developing managerial coaching skills. Some of these skills of starting with questions, taking the time to explore what's really at the root of the issue before you jump into giving a solution that comes to mind for you, are incredibly valuable skills for a leader. So I have a program called Lead with Curiosity, Coaching Skills for Library Leaders, that provides a small group, pretty intensive space to learn these coaching skills that, sometimes it's a 10-minute conversation in between other things. Sometimes it's your monthly one-on-one conversation. Sometimes it's just the way that you approach a new challenge, staying in that curious mindset before jumping to the solution that comes to mind for you. And then I also offer individual coaching for library leaders. I enjoy working with people who care about empowering their team members and looking for ways to use more of that shared governance approach, actively listen to their team members. But sometimes you need support as you start trying to do that, especially if you're coming into a team where that was not done before. I have a couple of clients that are relatively new to leadership positions and are navigating, getting their grounding and making sure that they are establishing a culture that lets them lead in the way they want to lead.
That's great. And you can be found, what's your website?
So I have two, and my regular coaching website is angelapashia.com. And I'll send you that to put into the notes.
I'll put in the notes, yeah.
But to avoid spelling issues, you can also just go to leadwithcuriosity.org. And that's the webpage for the Lead with Curiosity program. But also, if you click on About Your Facilitator at the top, that'll take you to my other website.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to talk about today? It could be anything. Like if you've got a book you want to recommend or a TV show, or you want to talk about how great your poodle is.
She actually left me. She got up and came over and shook in front of me and then went to her favorite spot on the couch in the other room.
Well, okay.
She is pretty great.
Yeah.
No, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and have this conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Thank you for listening. And thank you to my guest, Angela Pashia. And now, the fine print. One more plug for my Hiring Basics training. You can find a link to register by going to hiringlibrarians.com/classes. If you'd like to support this podcast and my work on hiringlibrarians.com, you can find my PayPal by visiting the site, or you can go to patreon.com/hiringlibrarians. I'd also love to hear from you about any little thing at all. You can email me at hiringlibrarians@gmail.com. The theme tune was written and performed by Matthew Travers. Thanks, Matthew.